She said they're all set? Okay. Okay, welcome to the April 23rd Energy and Environment Advisory Committee meeting in the town of Newmarket. Present is Joe Amatina, Julie Sinclair, and we have a guest, Lindsay Butler. We do not have a quorum, therefore we can't make any official decisions, but we can continue the meeting and we can go through some of the agenda that we have and we'll put off to another time, approval of minutes or whatever. So, public comments. It's open to the public. Would anybody from the public like to make any comments? You being the only member of the public? No? Okay. I will open. She said no. I will open and close public comments at 7:01. Except for the minutes, we will skip. Okay. Energy chapter of the master plan. So Julie had a couple of updates to the master plan. I made those in the version that we sent out. I guess that will be pretty much the final one. We'll probably have take one more review or something, or the completed thing will come out and people will be able to, do any final changes, or is that this it?
I think my understanding is that this is what will be considered final to present to the master plan subcommittee.
Okay.
There is still opportunity to make some last minute modifications, or I'm not going to say last minute, but more final modifications if desired before it goes to planning board. That would be after the fact. And when it goes to planning board for review and public hearing, that's when we go on making any changes.
Hello.
Scott or George? Scott. No. Get you guys mixed up. Okay. So, Scott, we don't have a quorum, but we do have going to continue with the agenda. There's a couple of things over here. Yeah. You get it to him? Okay. Oh, so we were talking with Lindsay on the master plan. This is basically the semi-last time that we'll have updates to the master plan. It'll go off to the subcommittee, master plan subcommittee. They may make a few changes there. Then it goes off to the planning board. Is that correct?
Yes.
Pretty much. I assume that when it's with the subcommittee and with goes to the planning board, a couple of changes could be made. It would just be minor changes. Okay. What we do want to do is I had sent everybody the goals and action steps. Okay. What I'd like to do is just kind of like go through those and maybe pick 5 or 6 or whatever that we think are the priorities that are doable over the next couple of years that we can take a look at. I'm not sure how best to handle that, but before we do that, I do want to dive into one of the things. Under the action items for connectivity, for this particular one here, support and integrate multimodal transportation systems to reduce vehicle miles driven. There were no actual action items, so I made up a couple. If you guys want to take a look at this, okay, for the action items I had, work with the Transportation Committee to develop a viable public transportation system. Consider the possibility of a voucher system for transportation challenged residents. This is a case where residents buy or are given vouchers, ride shares, and then the transportation company, the ride share company, takes those vouchers and turns them in or redeems them with the town clerk or some agency. So, can you guys think of any other action items that we might? Are you okay with those action items, or should we?
I like those action items. Yeah, absolutely. And, and I guess the whole education aspect would be part of it, as well, educating people. But I really like those action items.
Any idea?
Sure, well, I'm just curious on the transportation committees or public transportation system. So I know that Newmarket used to participate with that Wildcat transit, UNH, and then went away from that, I don't know why, but, what would be the, like, I guess, receptivity from the council? If you would.
Well, there is a transportation committee that is, looking at it. UNH went away because of, ridership went down.
Okay.
For a number of reasons. I think one of them was more dorms were built in Durham, and, a lot of the students that used to be here, they used to ride it, moved to the dorms or the, their apartments elsewhere.
Would this be from Newmarket to surrounding towns? Or would it just be within Newmarket?
I can
Yep.
answer some of this. I'm also the rep on the transportation
Okay.
committee. So, yeah, Wildcat service ended. We do have on-demand coast service.
Mhm.
So and Newmarket is continuing to participate in coast. The hope of the transportation committee is to explore, well, not the hope. The intent is to explore alternative options for ride share services, whether that's expanding the service with Coast or finding alternatives to provide ride share opportunities or ride service opportunities. And that is to surrounding communities. Where specifically hasn't been ironed out totally. The current on-demand Route 7 connects to Exeter through Stratham, or Stratham and Exeter, and I'm not sure if it goes to Newfields, obviously it goes through, but, and then back towards Durham and Dover. I think the hope of the Transportation Committee is to continue those connections, but also provide expanded connections that extend across the bay to Portsmouth and other transportation hubs as well.
Okay.
So they do have action items in the transportation chapter that are a little bit more specific to expansion of public transit services or alternative rideshare programs beyond what we currently have, but commitment to maintaining at least what we currently have now and not getting reductions in that service.
And do people know about it? I mean, I know that I'm guilty of not knowing or using that. Like, how are people currently learning about, like, when they move into town? How do
That's a good
they
question.
learn about this?
I don't know how people currently learn about it. It is used. I don't know what the actual numbers are on the current use and ridership, but I know it is used. I think Coast can probably provide more information about that. And as far as education about the fact that that service is available, that's probably a good opportunity to partner with the Public Transportation Committee in putting together some additional materials for what services are available. There's a table in the transportation chapter that outlines what services available and what they're available for, and I believe costs associated with rides for each of the services there. So that information is in the master plan chapter, but I don't know how that's disseminated to the community. So
Okay,
that could be a good opportunity for partnership and
okay.
more
Thank-
education there.
Yeah, thank you.
So I added in here, consider developing an educational campaign as to what public services, public transportation services. Services are available and what would you say, what they're used for? Like, you said something, and how they're used?
How they're used, yes. Like where people go. Because some of the services are available for like medical appointments, but not necessarily for like grocery trips and things like that.
Okay. Another point Maybe this is somewhere else in here, I didn't see it, but regarding, like, it says specifically, like, encourages bicycles and other efficient modes of transportation. It's not the easiest place to bike around, but, I mean, I think in downtown it's not too bad, but they come over the bike lanes, and it's beyond that, and I don't know, if, like, expansion of bike lanes, it's kind of hard and expensive.
There are things in here relative to bicycling.
There are elements of addressing bicycle and pedestrian facilities and the expansion thereof within the transportation chapter. So that could be another opportunity to partner on the education and encouragement of those. Some of the action items in the transportation chapter that are related to bicycle facilities are kind of in the broader scheme of evaluating streetscapes and taking advantage of opportunities for reconstruction projects to expand where those connections are. And the Transportation Committee has been reviewing some level of service data for bike facilities. The Stratford Regional Planning Commission has level of service data for pedestrian and bike accommodations, which is kind of like evaluating a street based on vehicle speeds and shoulder width and things like that to determine if it's a place that a cyclist would feel safe or not safe, and they score them accordingly. So we've been reviewing maps that show which roads have which ratings and which could be improved. So that's something that committee is looking at and incorporating into their action items too.
That's good. Yeah. And there's definitely overlap, I think, transportation.
Yeah.
Makes sense for where to live, but obviously, energy reduction.
Okay, so I feel comfortable with adding these particular action items and you guys can add them. Okay, so what I'd like to do next is within vibrancy, connectivity, and with the major themes there, pick a couple of things that we think we can actually accomplish, or what we think is, even if it's a longer period of time, is it something that we can prioritize? I'm not sure how best to do this. What we can do is read each one of the action items. I can tell you the ones that I thought were important. Okay, so under vibrancy, set minimum requirements for site selection for new construction. Site selection for new construction should focus preferentially on minimizing transportation requirements to residents and businesses while still considering conservation of historical properties, open space, and prime agricultural land. Site design should maximize the advantage of sun exposure, difference to microclimates in landscaping, reduce and develop energy demand and overall energy consumption. Provide opportunities for new development to reduce vehicle mile driven, increase walkability and bikeability. Encourage actions that support energy efficiency and conservation, energy security, and cost savings. Design and undertake comprehensive campaign of community awareness, education outreach materials, and events to educate public on the most energy efficient technologies and methods available and how to acquire and implement them. Plan for how to address existing and potential climate change impacts and conduct education outreach to residents regarding such. Develop an integrated education program on energy efficient resources and conservation methods, outreach plan, and green sector workforce training program. Tell you the ones that I thought were within this that were doable or feasible is, encourage actions that support energy efficiency, conservation, energy security, and cost savings. I think there's a number of educational things that we can champion and work with other groups to do. And I think that, to me, education and getting things to cleaner energy are the two main things that this committee could do. Comments, thoughts?
Completely agree, yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
1 in 4 in the second section there. Okay. Yeah, 1 and 4 seem to overlap quite a bit.
So you guys agree to that, that's.
Yeah.
Priority. Okay. I had, so you're saying develop an integrated education program on energy efficiency resources, conservation method, outreach plans, green sector workforce training program. You're saying that that's priority?
In my view, yeah, and I think I would be told differently, but it's.
So a lot of these, I think, I don't know, they kind of overlap again.
And they're actionable, like, in terms of outreach and education.
So I had designed and undertake comprehensive campaign for community awareness, education outreach materials, and events to educate the public on the most energy efficient technologies, methods available, and how to acquire and implement them. I don't know. And looking at these, are they kind of saying the same thing?
They are a little repetitive.
So education campaigns are.
Yeah, that's a great sum.
I would say, and this is just my recommendation on the to the committee, that bottom one, where it says develop an integrated education program, seems to be the most like SMART goal, of the ones about just regarding education, because it actually has an action to develop a program that you can coordinate with other committees on sharing this information and getting the word out. The other ones kind of seem like they're like encourage actions is a little fluffy to me. That doesn't have actual actions in it. So my recommendation would be, if you're going to pick a priority in that grouping, maybe pick the bottom one that says you will develop an integrated education program and work with those other committees.
Okay. I'm totally fine with that.
Are these set in stone, like this will end up in the energy chapter as is, or?
No, I'll give you till like the end of the week if you want to change it or.
Well, I'm just like to your point.
Yes.
Like, I think like we could probably merge those 4 into 2. And I don't have offhand like how else to do that, but. It
And
might be-
that is something that SRPC staff and Carrie's gone through this with a handful of us, the subcommittee group too. If you have a recommendation on that, just making a note that these seem like they could be consolidated, she can work on the actual like language
Yeah.
that could make sense and go in there. So yes, there is still opportunity to provide feedback like that, and comments get submitted and incorporated before it goes to. And this also, when we were talking about what's happening with this implementation matrix and the chapter itself is, this committee makes a recommendation to the master plan subcommittee. They review, maybe make some tweaks, say they agree, and make a recommendation to the planning board to adopt it. So there are kind of levels of additional review and opportunity for tweaks.
Okay.
And just also too, if I understand correctly, that there's the other columns here, what's it gonna cost and is it really
Yeah.
doable, feasible, whatever. They're gonna take a look at that and, some of the things that we may say as a priority, they're gonna say, we just can't do that.
Yeah, what they're looking for is that priority column to
Mhm.
have an understanding of what this group and the people that are more well-versed in this topic would categorize as the town priorities. They probably won't make much change to that. They have opportunity to kind of shift the priorities around. Planning board really would ultimately be the ones to shift those around if need be. And then the remainder of those columns, the first cut of filling in that information is going to be from town staff, primarily Bart, myself, SRPC, putting some estimated costs and time commitments of resources and timeframes of accomplishment and all of that kind of stuff. All of those columns will be filled in from staff and then reviewed and edited with the committees.
Under connectivity, okay, so work with the Transportation Committee to develop a viable public transportation system, a plan. Um, Consider possibility for a voucher system for transportation challenged residents. Residents buy or are given vouchers for rideshare transportation. Vouchers are redeemed at the town clerk's office or elsewhere. Consider developing an education campaign as to what public transportation services are available and where they go. By 2030, for cars and new purchases, okay, so this is transition the municipal facility, the municipal fleet to all electric or plug-in. I don't think all electric is going to be viable for police and fire for some period of time, but certainly more hybrid vehicles would be viable anyway. By 2030 for cars and new purchases, and by 2050 for all vehicles.
Just a quick question. So what is that, what do you mean by 2050 for all vehicles? Is all the harder to transition vehicles like police, fire, trucks?
Correct.
Okay.
That's actually also to a resolution that we've done in the town for to aspire to that goal by 2030, such and such, and by 2050.
Yeah. Does that also include like school buses, or is that a totally different?
Yeah, all municipal vehicles. Yeah, school
Well,
buses.
the school bus is a separate contract.
Is it?
First student does that, so the town doesn't actually own any of the
Oh,
buses.
is it? So it's out of the town's control.
Yeah.
Because those are like becoming pretty electrified
Mhm.
across the country, so it's might be not like 2030 might even still be ambitious, but 2050s. So
Yeah, Pembroke or someplace got like a $5 million grant to
right.
go get electric school buses. I think Pembroke or Petersburg, one of those.
Okay.
Investigate potential for public-private partnerships, including incentivizing landlords in multifamily buildings. That's for providing opportunities to increase the number of electric charging stations in town. Investigate opportunities for destination charging stations to increase the number of public electric vehicle charging stations in the downtown area to contribute to vibrancy for the downtown. Underscore for regional, state, and national actions to reduce greenhouse emissions. Investigate potential tax incentives. There has been proposed legislation to change registration fees to be based on weight and miles driven, which would benefit electric vehicles while still recouping highway and maintenance costs equitably. But other incentives, such as a certain amount of free town garbage bags, free recycling, free dog registration, etc., could be used. Such legislation is passed. So, other incentives. So, under this connectivity, I had investigate opportunities to destination charging stations to increase the number of public electric charging stations in the downtown, and to contribute to vibrancy of the downtown. I had that as a doable priority.
I like the one that you just wrote, the new one.
This one here,
That whole section, that whole red section. Only because the, electric vehicles, like it seems like a longer term plan, which is still valuable, but if you wanted something that we can do in the next few years, like some of the electric vehicle stuff would take many years, wouldn't it?
depends on what, if we force them, or not force them, but make recommendations to as we get new vehicles, say for the police station, for public works, to switch to hybrids or ensure that they're hybrid vehicles. That could be a priority over the next couple of years, or is it?
What's the time frame for the energy check, or sorry, the master plan in general? It's
For it to be,
like wait,
10 years.
10
It's
years.
supposed to be
10
updated
years
every 10
forecast,
years,
right?
yep.
Okay, yeah. So I think it makes sense to include EV related.
So, which one?
For me, no, sorry, I'm just, kind of throwing that for
Well,
you. But,
I'm fine with that. They're kind of like the same. The others, yes, they're good to do and we should do them, but again, within this category, if I had to prioritize something, I guess it would be this one. That seem okay?
You can prioritize more than one in a section. The Riverfront Committee had a couple of actions in each section.
What else? Okay, so investigate the opportunities. Oops. Oh, I might have read this. Investigate tax incentives. There's been, well, yeah, I read that. That seemed like a lot, kind of a spread.
Yeah.
We okay with that, these two? Under
Yeah.
connectivity?
Yep.
That's good. Once. On affordability and accessibility, okay. Maximize energy efficiency for municipal energy use by setting yearly targets for reducing energy by focusing on efficient technologies for buildings and municipal operations, vehicle fuel use, and outdoor lighting, etc. Invest in an energy dashboard to track the town's transition to cleaner energy usage. Add new charging stations as they come online. The dashboard would demonstrate efforts towards achieving the town's energy goals and expand to track other energy consumption data, community power, residential, commercial, and other sources. Provide efficiency audits to residents and businesses for both existing and new buildings, and offer tax incentive programs for efficiency improvements, including upgraded installation. Provide audits to residents and businesses for upgrades to clean and renewable electric fuel choices. Design and undertake a comprehensive campaign of community awareness, education outreach materials, and events to educate the public on the most energy efficient technologies and methods available and how to acquire and implement them. Develop incentives for new construction and renovations to include the generation of electricity, energy efficiency, and heating and cooling from non-carbon based sources such as solar. Champion advocate for tax incentives to low to moderate income households for renewable generation or efficiency projects. For example, single-family homes under the town median income and median assessed value, create a 50% property tax exemption for 5 years up to the cost of the system, and other incentives. Other incentives such as a certain amount of free town garbage bags, free recycle bins, free dog registration, etc. Establish a program for multifamily structures and HOAs to access renewable energy generation and maximize efficiency, including the possibility of providing tax credit to landlords for rental housing in exchange for compliance with workforce housing level affordability. Provide residents with energy audits and adopt incentives such as property tax exemptions, PTE, for renewable energy and efficiency improvement projects. RSA 72-27A allows municipalities to adopt property tax exemptions for solar energy systems. RSA 7261, wind powered energy systems, RSA 7266, and wood heating systems, RSA 7270. For example, the town program could be created whereby a privately purchased photovoltaic system could qualify a property owner up to 50% credit towards property taxes taken yearly for a maximum of 5 years or until the total tax credit taken equals the value of the system. Similar programs could be created for improved installation or for other major efficiency improvements. As the Newmarket Community Power is anticipated to generate revenue for the town long-term for the purpose of investing in energy, such funds could be a potential source of funding for these PTE or town-generated programs. Prioritize incentives and programs that make renewable energy systems and improved efficiency technologies accessible to low to moderate income families and renters, as the market for such technologies is already saturated for high income households. PTE reference in 5.0 item 3 could be limited to low to moderate income households or to owners of rental housing, with the stipulation that the restrictive covenant is recorded in the Registry of Deeds in order to enforce compliance for such housing with the definition of workforce housing pursuant to NHRSA 674 58 IV, as it pertains to rental housing and the definition of affordable pursuant to 674 58 I. Provide incentives for multifamily buildings. Provide incentives for multifamily building owners to provide solar panels to offset tenant energy costs, such as increased densities or tax exemptions to offset the initial cost of the solar system. Transition all heating for public properties to 100% renewable by 2050. Consider and compare geothermal systems, passive solar structure design, radiant floor heating, and reflective and Franklin-style biomass stove, other renewable heating fuels and efficient technologies, and determine an optimized combination of such to reach maximum sustainability and lower cost. Maximize thermal efficiency through audits of installation and windows, etc. on all town properties. Provide climate incentives. Provide private incentives for residents and businesses to transition to renewable heat and maximize efficiency by 2050 in such PTE programs outlined above. So that was a lot. I'll tell you the ones that I had. So establish programs for multifamily structures and HOAs to access renewable energy generation and maximize efficiency, including the possibility of providing tax credits to landlords of rental housing in exchange for compliance with workforce housing level affordability. And I thought of that as within this group as being one of the priorities. Where Newmarket has, a fair number of apartments and condos, homeowner associations that having programs or the ability to access renewable energy for that group of people, by somehow working with the landlords, or I thought that was a viable goal.
Yeah, I like that goal. I also like the low to moderate income one. 'Cause it seems like the low to moderate income people seem to miss out on that much of the time.
We just flagged that as not great. That's a possibility. Which one?
Um,
Prioritize incentives and programs that make renewable energy systems and improve efficient technology accessible to low to moderate income families.
yes. I like that one too.
And another one that I had was transition all heating for public properties to 100% renewable by 2050.
Yeah.
You I know there was a lot in there, but
Maybe like if we did something like that, like could we, because this is a 10-year thing, could we like change the goal to like X% instead of 100% by 2050? Be it by 2025, by 2035, that would be 50% or, some other percent that's where we can succeed at the goal before 2050?
A benchmark of progress
Yeah.
towards that.
I mean, if we select that as a, if we do select that, which I like.
I think we could define 100% renewable in terms of public property heating. Would that be heat pumps most likely, or electric?
to be renewable is, could be like wood, okay, and, solar, wind, whatever, and nuclear, um, pretty much anything other than fossil or carbon related.
So I assume most of the buildings here are oil heated right now?
I don't know, the boiling propane.
Okay. Is that a viable transition? I mean, assuming they don't use heat pumps, which in my mind probably the most obvious choice, but like, are you not?
I think yes, that,
Yeah.
2050 is doable, and yeah, if you want to set benchmarks, you know, by 2030 do X%, 2040 X%.
Is there a, I assume the town has an inventory of like every municipal building, this heating system, costs.
That information exists in town records. In one place where it's aggregated and you can view all of that, no. We have an inventory of municipal buildings. Our buildings and grounds department manages all of the buildings and the systems within, and they have invoices for fuel consumption for heating systems and repairs. A tally of the costs associated with each facility per year, we don't have that currently.
Well, we did get, for both the town and the school, for the last 2 years, we've got pretty much by buildings, right?
We've got electricity. We don't
Electricity,
have
yeah, we don't have.
heating. All of it. Well, I mean, we have the information, like I said, in invoices and files and stuff, but we don't have it in like a dashboard format.
Would this committee be responsible if we say by 2035 be 50% renewable? Would this committee be responsible for tracking that, or is that?
No, that's where some of the other columns here,
Okay.
like the lead entity would be town departments,
Yeah.
probably buildings and grounds,
Okay.
public works, because they would be responsible for doing that, and they're responsible for budgeting and maintaining those systems.
Right.
So the committees would be in the supporting entities in making that happen. But for an action item like that, it would be department staff and finance department.
Well, we do have the ability, we're an advisory committee to the town council, so we can say to the town council, we can monitor it, say to the town council, we would like to see this done, or whatever, and the town council, if they really want to adopt it, could then force it down.
Yeah.
And with that transition too, it's prudent to take an opportunistic approach, and when a system is nearing end of life,
Yeah.
look to upgrade with the replacement rather than replace in kind. But if some of the newer systems don't need to be replaced for 30 years,
Yeah.
we may not be making moves to transition that now, because that would be an added cost.
On this part, this one.
Okay, so we've got 3, okay, establish some multi-family structural for HOAs, advertise incentive programs, make renewable energy, and traditional heating. I added, develop a benchmark of progress for select years.
Do you want the action item and the action item for obtaining that goal to be develop that benchmark? Or do you want to set what you want that target to be?
I put in, I assume that we, somebody would develop a benchmark type of thing, that we wouldn't do it. Or, whoever's gonna take that particular action item.
Mhm.
How about, this is maybe too nuanced, but regarding the property tax exemption, this is only relevant for homeowners and for low to moderate income or below the median income. Do we have data on like how many homeowners there are in Newmarket that are below median income?
There, I did a study, there is stuff, on the internet based on census data, so there is, that, how accurate it is, that's a match, but, yeah, but you can get that, it's publicly available information. I pulled a bunch of stuff when we were looking at, increasing the tax credit for elderly and, okay. Resiliency. Newmarket Community Power should increase the renewable portfolio for the default plan yearly, so as to achieve 50% by 2027, 100% by 2030, or, for example, increase by 13% each year. Part of Newmarket Community Power electric sourcing can include, if the town chooses, town-owned generation projects. Such projects guarantee affordability in the long term and increase energy security. Potential projects for the town to consider, cost-benefit analysis. Potential projects for the town to consider cost-benefit analysis will include solar fields, joint projects with neighboring towns, municipal rooftop or land projects, retrofitting the dam for hydroelectric. Most hydroelectric projects nationwide are retrofits. Use of private rooftops paid for by the town by charging the property owner increased fixed rate until the system is paid off to feed the grid via decentralized production. Develop potential options for battery storage for municipal facilities. Purchase rooftop systems on private residents and businesses for town generation in exchange for long-term fixed electric rates. The town should explore the feasibility of creating an independent electric utility company. I ruled out this one, okay, because my opinion is that people should, would like to provide people with the cheapest rate. Okay, so I would, although community power offers right now offers the ability to select higher levels of clean energy, I wouldn't want to force that on people. I would say, you can do what you currently do. If you want to upgrade, you can upgrade, just simply by calling the telephone number and giving them an account. So anyway, that's why I didn't make that particular one. I did have this as one of the priorities. Part of Newmarket Community Electric sourcing can include the town chooses town-owned generation projects. Such projects guarantee affordability, long-term and increased energy security. So, I know one of the things the town is actually looking at right now is potentially a solar array. I don't know if that's fine, but I think the concept is fine. Just have to find the right location and have the infrastructure there to do it. I had that as one of the priorities. But again, I think it's very doable. The other one I had is develop potential options for battery storage for municipal facilities. I really think I think the town has a couple of places, particularly down by the Public Works or some other places where um, battery storage is feasible. I'd like the town to take a look more at that. Is that okay if we pick that one as a priority?
Yes, it's fine with me.
Is there a reason that the battery storage one isn't sort of rolled up under the one above it? Sort of as a, just like a energy source, just a generation.
Again, you can maybe roll those into one, like, if you want to suggest that. I think what had happened is, we had, we were talking about solar and all that, and then the battery came up as another idea, and so they just created it as a separate line item. But yeah,
For going back to the one above it, so it starts out saying part of Newmarket Community Power. Does that mean that all of these potential projects would be Newmarket Community Power owned or Newmarket Community Power source?
okay, so on the solar fields or projects, okay, so Community Power is working with a couple right now of places where they're gonna, support that particular solar array, and so Community Power will get that electricity. Municipalities like the school or the town can opt into that and get a piece of that. Okay, so in other words, we're not going to potentially get credits or whatever for electricity coming from a solar field that's outside of Newmarket. That's one. Or Newmarket could have developed its own solar fields in town. And how they market that electricity, I don't know, it could be like a net metering thing where, offsets the electricity that they generate, or they outright sell it back to grid. It's a couple of different options. Retrofit the dam, we have the dam downtown. There's been talk about that, maybe somehow putting some kind of a hydroelectric generator there. Again, I don't know how feasible that is. I did talk with the town at one point in town. It's potentially feasible to do it, but the cost, I think, might be prohibitive. And use of private rooftops, yeah, take a look at, maybe there are opportunities to put solar arrays on private rooftops and harvest that electricity. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, maybe a different way to, I guess, look at this is, like, I'm just trying to see are there ways that we want to have Newmarket specifically engage with, well, we've done this before, like an RFP, right? And just create and help finance a solar facility. That would be, whereas we're doing this with community power, they're the owner, the sponsor of the project, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Newmarket do it on their own as opposed to through community power.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is there a benefit to going through community power versus community? Just that's the
The only thing I can think of that offhand is cost. Let community power do all the work, and all the financing to get that solar array up and running. And Newmarket just participates or doesn't participate versus, and community power is responsible for maintaining it or whatever, versus if Newmarket were to do it, we own the whole thing, basically, we get the funding for it, we get the land for it, but we receive all the benefits from it. So, is it your concern that because we say community power here as opposed to Newmarket?
kind of. I do feel like it's pigeonholing us a little bit. But maybe it does make more financial sense for Newmarket to finance the project itself, especially if it's on town-owned land that it doesn't have to pay for. Usually that's the cost for the project.
This, could, it sounds like maybe there should be an added action item that is more generic to, wanting the town to pursue renewable energy, considering town-owned generation projects, pursue town-owned generation projects just as a blanket, and really, when it comes to actually pursuing them, the town council will need to review and approve and work with town staff to determine the financing for that stuff. So maybe there should be an action item to pursue the projects and an action item to partner with community
Yeah.
power to also use those funds, whether they get put to those projects or other town-owned energy generation projects. So I can talk to Carrie about wording on that, and is that kind of
That
what you're
was
getting at?
perfect, way more eloquent than I figured. Yeah, I think I was getting hung up on the association with Newmarket Community Power, and whether or not that's like where we want to focus it.
I think, and Joe, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I think the action item for part of Newmarket Community Power electricity source and include is that once Newmarket has participated in community power to a point where there's actual revenue there, and that revenue from community power can be put to these types of projects. So there
Yes.
should be a goal for that, to use that revenue generated from community power to do that, and a goal to pursue town-owned generation projects.
Yeah, I think that sounds great.
Just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, thanks.
So if I added tasks here, have the town of Newmarket develop or partner with a group to develop energy resources or energy.
I can work with Carrie on the wording for this one, because I think it's, not necessarily have the town do it, but for the town to pursue implementation, development of town-owned generation projects.
All right, I'm going to put a little note here. That's easy to fix.
Yes, that's fair.
Is that still open, the one that, the RFP from last year, before,
No.
that was, we didn't pursue that?
Yeah, no, we did.
Oh, we did?
We've partnered with Revision Energy and Citizens Energy to pursue some projects. We are actively pursuing conceptual preliminary design of a solar array, ground-mounted solar array at one of our well sites.
Cool.
So
Ongoing.
we have some tasks
Nice.
moving ahead.
All right. I have that highlighted rather than Lindsay to fix it. Right?
Yep.
So that would be a priority too. So that's it. What I can do is I'll send it to everybody. Say, here's what we picked, and you guys can take a look at it again, see if you're okay with it, and you can just write a note too as to if you think there's something that should be combined.
Okay.
Like that. And if you can, I think by the end of the week, you can get through that. And get back to Darren and Rosie.
I just want, the one that you said we should scrap, that first one, the community section, regarding Newmarket Community Powers, expanding renewable distribution.
Which I've got.
The first one, above that one. Yeah.
Oh,
You suggested scrapping that because it seems like.
I didn't want to make it a priority
Yeah.
because I feel one of the things we said with community power is that we would offer cheap rates. Okay, at this point, I'd like to stay with that.
I just was curious if there's like a alternative incentive we could provide or suggest the town to provide to choose the higher renewable, um, portfolio. Meaning, if you pick the 50% plan, you get restaurant coupons. That's a terrible example.
You
but-
get money off in taxes.
Something like that. The problem is like if you're just doing math, like, you're not, the cost offset is difficult, but yeah.
No, I hear what you're
Yeah.
saying. I hear what you're saying. Make it like something somebody want, like an
Yeah.
extra
Free trash
incentive.
bags.
Yeah.
Two things. One, just because we say it's not a priority doesn't mean it isn't going to get done.
Mhm.
One of the things we do want to, we do have as kind of a goal already is to get by 2050 everybody up to 100%. By 2030, all the town facilities up to 100%. So we sort of have that goal already.
Okay. All right. Understood.
I didn't want to force community power to say, okay, for Newmarket, the default is going to be 50% clean. Everybody gets defaulted to 50% clean. Even though everybody technically has the option to opt out or go back down, but people generally don't do that. They get my electric bill, I get my electric bill, I bitch about it.
Okay.
All right, so that's what, I think we're almost at the point where we're done with the master plan. And community power, I don't have any updates on community power. Tomorrow is the annual meeting. So at the next meeting, we should have some updates from community power. So we don't have anything. One of the things we do want you guys to consider is we do need to elect some new officers. We got to make sure that everybody starts coming to these meetings. I'll send out a note to try to, I don't know what I'll say, but I'll say something. Say, come on, either come to the meetings or step out. Anyway, at our next meeting, I'd like to do the election of officers. We need a chair, vice chair, and some recording secretary. Talk to you already, Scott. You may get drafted. So I'll include that in the note when I send it. The other thing I want to start talking about. Okay, so we met with Casella last time, and they had some interesting statistics on recycling in Newmarket, and Newmarket's actually doing pretty good in keeping things out of the landfill. I think roughly 40% of all the trash is of the recyclable materials. I think 40% is not going into the landfills, and 40% is pretty high for communities. Dover is one of the highest communities, and they're roughly close to 50%. Newmarket being 40% is very high. Mainly, I think, attributed to the fact that people pay for the orange bags, and because they pay for the orange bags, they're more likely to keep cardboard and things out of going into the, they go to the landfill, and they have to pay for the orange bag, stick it into the recycle bins, which are free. That all being said, it's pretty clear that we could probably do a better job at recycling. What's recyclable, what isn't recyclable, what's going to landfill. So I thought, or I'd like to do some kind of a campaign or something that is really set. Reduce, they already have this reduce, reuse, recycle. Basically, reduce the amount of stuff that you get. Reuse what you can, as opposed to just use it, single-use bottles or whatever, and throw it out. And recycle. Recycle appropriate materials, cardboard. There's a lot of plastics that really aren't recyclable. People look at it and say, oh, it's plastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
if you guys kind of think of, okay, what can we do for a campaign? How can we best do it? One of the thoughts that was thrown out is that, going to the high school kids or kids going through them to get to the parents is a good way of getting information out. We also have, you know, Facebook, the town website, whatever, and the town is just contracted with a company they're supposed to do a couple of things a month. So we may have some semi-professional people help us develop some campaigns. We want to do something like that. Okay.
There's a business in Dover, and I don't remember the name of it, that sells like, detergents and countertop sprays and everything, not everything, but a lot of things that we buy in containers that need to be thrown out afterwards. And so the idea of this business is that you have one jar or one bottle and you keep going back. Like that's where you go when you need more counter spray or you need more dishwashing liquid. You don't buy another one. You go back to this business and do a refill. Wouldn't it be cool if we could have something like that in town? So we don't have to rebuy dishwashing liquid, laundry detergent, and all these things that have major containers that we use all the time and we throw out all the time. We wouldn't have to throw out at all.
I think at this point, we're like, I'm saying, open it up to everybody, toss out ideas of, what can we do? Or do you want to do something different? I'm proposing to, reduce, reuse, recycle campaign. But if you guys feel that there's something, another way.
No, I like this campaign. I like it.
But again, yeah, that's, maybe that's a piece of it.
Would be cool.
Reuse or reduce.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we could fit under one of those two things. So again, just start thinking about what can we do. I envision, like I say, now that the master plan is pretty much done, community power is up and running and out of the way. Those are the main things that have been tied us up for like the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I think we're on the downhill side here now. We could start actually doing some stuff. And climate change, I think, too, is one of the things we need to maybe stop looking at the impact that's going to be for the next couple of years, the impact on the river down here and downtown. I know the Riverfront Advisory Committee is looking at that too, but we're energy and environment, so it's maybe that's something else we could do. Whether we partner with the Conservation Commission, the Riverfront Advisory Committee, or that's something we'd like to. Questions, comments? Next meeting, we've gone back and forth between the last Wednesday of the month or the fourth Wednesday of the month. I think my preference is, other than I think 3 months, December, July, and I forget what the other one was, they all have 4 Wednesdays in the month. I think my preference would be to stick with the 4th Wednesday of the month. You guys have?
Yeah, that's fine.
Or do you want to stick with the last Wednesday of the month?
4th is fine.
Yeah, 4th is fine.
That would be May 28th. And that's month, right?
So I'm just gonna look, what is that? Yeah, May 28th.
Yep.
By then too, I think, will be Patrick and Juliana have rolled off from the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board. The Conservation, I think they both have somebody to reappoint. I'll make sure that get a hold of that person and have them complete next meeting as well. Anything else? Anything else?
I could probably talk for hours about recycling, but just one, I guess, comment on the reduce, reuse, recycle approach. It's great. I think it's not a broken record, but it's well known. that's a pretty common term now. But without giving people like either carrots or sticks for how to make changes, it's like people are just going to hear you and then and not to be so negative, but like continue on with their lives. So I wonder. I like the opportunities like to give people incentives, whether it's through I don't know. We need to find ways to motivate people to change their recycling actions. Give people easier ways to recycle or composting is another big area that we could probably improve
Well, one of the things from the Casella meeting was sort of the general awareness of what is recyclable and what is
Yeah.
not. And there were questions in the committee of things that like, well, this is what I've been doing for years. Is it right or is it not right? So knowing that there's more updated information on that could be disseminated, that could be where you focus with this campaign to just kind of reaffirm what is recyclable, what should go in which bin or package or whatever. And in terms of incentivizing, it kind of highlights the fact that when you're diverting recycling, you're diverting composting, you're reducing the tons of trash that get picked up.
Yeah.
And there's a cost benefit to reducing the amount that's in the home. So that educational material that could highlight some of those things could be helpful, and just kind of, Casella has a bunch of information, maybe it's a matter of taking some of that information and doing as a committee to tailor, and I don't know if anybody's good with Canva or something, to create new flyers that could be put in the newsletter and on Facebook and distribute like we were talking
I
about.
say, we got that new group that Steve just signed a contract with.
Yeah,
We're supposed to do some stuff.
Compiling some of the information that you want to share and getting it to them to review and get some input from them on what kind of format can you get this message out, have it regarded.
Yeah.
And the composting is one that I think like we can get questions with people that, I see those things, those Mr. Fox things.
A lot of people-
that don't know about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of people don't know it.
Yeah, so getting more information out about that, and what can go in it, and increasing, we have increased the bins because they are used. But-
at the transfer station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe increasing the hours that people can bring compost material.
Directly to let them know. Yeah.
Having somebody there all the time. That may be one thing. Another thing we can say, when it comes to incentives, I think it's going to be a hard sell to get the town manager and the council to agree to give people tax breaks, because if you give somebody a tax break, somebody else has to pay for it. But on the other side, maybe we can talk about doing something where, you charge people if you don't do it right.
Yeah, that's, I know.
Or they don't accept, they don't take
Yeah,
it.
that's the don't accept, or like I have my experience is when I was living in Cambridge. Like if your recycling was overly contaminated, they would put a sticker on the bin and not accept it. And that's maybe a lot to ask of the Casella employees, but
It may be, especially if they go to the truck that comes, the automated truck that just picks up stuff. But again, maybe at the transfer station we could do something like
yeah, yeah, and I think there's no signage right at the transfer station for recycling. I don't think so. Yeah. So like that would be an easy one. I don't know if this new contractor we have.
They say, they have a bin for bottles and cans and plastic, and then they have a bin for cardboard. Cardboard usually has cardboard in it, but the other bin there has everything in it, trash bags, and, which is a big one.
Right.
Again, let's think about the stuff that we can do. We've got probably a couple of months here. We can just kind of like brainstorm and decide, okay, let's do this campaign. Let's work, A, B, and C. We can work with that group to create some kind of fancy boards or something, and maybe work with the town council or maybe a high school group. If the high school has a recycling group, grab them and have them make some commercials or something.
I think there is the high school energy committee or something like that.
Or UNH has some interns that they're looking to do something, maybe we can have them. Do you have a card or something? We'll get that.
Kathy
Would-
wrote down, I'm a senior, so I'm not gonna be at UNH much longer, but they're always looking to do,
Nope.
like,
Is there a group at UNH that we can?
yeah.
that would be willing?
I'll get you my contact
She's
information.
from UNH, she's an intern, and she's doing something.
Because I know I'm in environmental and resource economics, and so I know a lot of people that like do work with local, like just other towns, doing like free work for them in exchange for like an internship title.
Yeah, so there's an option right there. Okay, that's all I've got.
I have a question. Do any of you guys receive emails from Clean Energy New Hampshire?
Clean Energy New Hampshire.
You probably don't, because I don't think I shared your email, because it was a few months ago before you joined the committee. But with any changes with the committee and new chair, I just want to make sure I get the emails correct so I can share with them, because we are a member. So they send me the emails, and for a while, I think I was the only person receiving them for the town, so me and maybe Peter Nelson. So I just wanted to ask and confirm, because I don't want to be forwarding them to everybody in the committee if everybody's already getting them. So, good, you're getting them. I will make sure your email address gets added.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that good? So you have an email or something?
Yeah, I wrote it down.
All right, that being done, questions, comments?
Nope.
That being the case, I will consider us adjourned at 8:12 p.m. Thank you. Yeah. I will send that to everybody. Have them.
Yeah, and I was taking some notes on this too, so I will powwow with Bart and Carrie on some of those modifications and the priorities of it. And if you talk with anybody else that has any comments, additional comments, if you want to email them.
I will email them all, and I'm debating whether I'm going to do one email or two emails. Probably just one email with this stuff saying, blah, 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 here, take a look at it, blah, blah, blah. Then I'll send another email about, hey, you got to come to the meetings, and
Yeah.
I mean, Ellen hasn't come.
And if you receive any comments from
Yeah.
anybody, or if you have any additional that you want to share in, whether it's the tricks or the chapter, feel free to just email that to me,
Okay.
and I can make sure that we get that to Bart and Carrie as we go through the final review.
Thank you. Sorry that we didn't have more people here, but.
No, it was great. Thank you so much.
Thank
And I can find out the questions for me. I'll see if they're good.
You have a copy of-
Maybe- maybe-